And good evening and welcome to City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and as we all know, it's a local election season, and I'm delighted to have a longtime friend and candidate for New London City Council on the Republican ticket, John Russell. So John, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Marty. Thanks a lot. And we have been longtime friends, that's for sure.
Yeah, we go back, I'd say a
About
good 20 years.
At least 20, I think 21. Yeah, a little about 2003 or 4, yeah.
And so we're involved in a variety of things together, and politics is one of them, along with the New London Kiwanis Club. And last night we had dinner together with other club members up in Montville.
Yeah, Nino's, it was very good, authentic Italian restaurant. Being originally from Philadelphia, snob about pizza, and they did a pretty good job. They did a very good job.
Yeah, well, I think you and I've been there a number of times, and I think I've gotten you up there a couple of times.
Yeah.
The rest of our crew, I'm not sure if anybody had been up there, but I think they'd go back.
I think they would too. It was very good food. Service was excellent. In fact, the owner's daughter, I think, was waiting on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was talking to a gentleman today that said that gentleman that owns it is quite a good guy.
Okay.
So I'm glad they're doing well.
But that's one of the things that we do with the Kiwanis Club is once a month we get together and we move it around to different local restaurants and have dinner and a little social engagement, get away from the formalities and have a little fun.
You know, it's interesting, Marty, to talk about Kiwanis. It was actually another dear friend of ours who's passed now, got me involved back in 2004, I think, maybe 3, I can't remember for sure, but the first thing I did, Kiwanis is a international service organization that's been around for 120 years, I think.
At least.
Yeah, and we've had a club in New London for 80, and what we do is kids. We're all about kids, and so the first thing I did when I became a Kiwanian was to read to 3 to 5-year-olds, and
that's a hoop.
Yeah, in a daycare center setting, and if you can keep 10 to 15 3 to 5-year-olds interested, you are doing a good job. It was delightful, and so then through that I learned about the importance of reading. I just assumed, because I grew up reading, my mother read to my brother and I, read us to sleep every night, and but we find out, we give books to these kids and they've never had a book before.
They don't have them in the house.
And no books in the house, right? So they were delighted to get a book, and then, you know, through the Reading is Fundamental program, learned all about it and how much better a child does in later life if they learn to read and read a lot early. So that was my initial introduction to Kiwanis, and since then, for 22 years or 21 years now, I've been enjoying it. I've been the past president twice. You've probably been about 8 times now.
Many times.
And Marty was past governor, and you know, we get a lot of people in the club who are very involved in the city, and it's a really good organization. I tell my friends all the time to come, and I've gotten a number of people to join over the years, and they enjoy the experience because it's truly an altruistic thing. We take nothing, we give everything to the kids, along with, well, we've done so well lately on our largest fundraiser, which is a golf tournament, that we've expanded one of the things that we do, in addition to many others, is we give scholarships to kids going to college. And this past year, we were able to give 4 $3,000 scholarships.
That's our signature program.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of that. And we touch a lot of kids in Southeastern Connecticut.
Yeah, we do. And so that's one of the good things I get to share with Marty, along with sports and politics and so forth. You know, it's forged a friendship, and that's what happens a lot in Kiwanis. You do forge friendships with some of the other people, and they're a very disparate group of people we have. And I would generally, put it out there to anybody. If you'd like to get into something a little bit above yourself and help others, please come out to a Kiwanis Club. Our next meeting is the 5th, day after election. We meet every 2 weeks, first and third Thursday at noon at Filomenos. And it's just a real nice thing. Come out, we'll give you a free lunch, and you can learn a little more about Kiwanis.
Well, thanks. That was a good plug there, John. I'm going to bring you around more often. He's learning. He's taking a while, but he's getting.
Yeah, I'm slow in the uptake.
I wanted to just let the folks know that when it comes to because our election day is Tuesday, and we're in the middle of early voting right now as we
Yes,
speak.
we are.
I just met with Rob Pirro before picking you up to come over here, and he was telling me that through, I think it's today, they had 260 early voters.
I was talking the other day.
Not a lot.
Well, I was talking the other day about that. But Marty, when you figure that we don't get more than 21 or 2,200 voters on a municipal election, and not where there's no senators or presidents or anything, and 1,350 votes can get you elected, 260s. I was thinking that yesterday. I said, we spend all this money. I personally enjoy voting on the day of. That, to me, that's a privilege and a right that I have as a U.S. citizen. And for me to go in there and actually stand at the booth and cast my votes, that is a good day for me. I really enjoy that.
As do I might add.
Yeah, and you're working one of the polls, right?
I'll be the moderator over at Nathan Hill School next Tuesday.
Yeah.
If you got a problem over there, go look for John.
Don't look for John. No. Oh gosh, that's funny.
But because you've run many, many times. As a matter of fact, after I had moved back from Lyme, Connecticut, after my divorce, and I ran in '09, and you were on that. You ran that year.
I did run that year.
And but I believe you ran as a green.
Well, the Republicans had no room, so I did run as a green, cross-endorsed by the Republicans, and
you won that year.
And I won. I did win, and we ended up
the functioning majority.
Yeah, and we did have which was interesting that we had this majority, a functional majority, as you say, Marty. But if I remember correctly, it normally did not come down to a 4-3 vote across party lines. All right, we were very, different people, and I thought that the city was better served in those days. Plus, one of the things that I've observed is that a number of the councilors don't even make it to their meetings. They don't show up.
You mean now?
Now, yeah.
When we were serving, everybody
I don't
showed.
remember ever missing a meeting. I don't remember anybody missing a meeting. We took it very seriously. And
we didn't give ourselves a vacation either.
No. I mean, these guys, that's exactly true. So when we get into it a little further, I'll speak more on that. But it's quite different today, especially, when you served as mayor from 2010 to 11, and I served as deputy mayor. And then the following year, we changed our form of government to the strong mayoral form of government, which is, I voted against it because I didn't know if we could really get a good person in the job. And, some people some look at it some way, some look at it the other as far as where we're at today and would we do better. I had hoped that the mayor would be, at the time, our first mayor was Darrell Finizio, and our mayor since then has been Mike Passero, would have hired someone with the skills of a city manager to work as a CAO and let them run the city on the day-to-day and let the mayor, kiss babies and shake hands. But that's not what's happened. in the
No,
city.
it's had a radical change, and the salary for the mayor has doubled, basically from $80,000 to $160,000.
Well, if you remember, Marty, I was the one that forced them to keep it low. And the reason I did that was because I thought we were going to need the extra money to hire someone with the city manager's experience. But as it turned out, Darrell Finizio hired a soap maker to be his CAO. Anyhow, I digress. So,
Well, but you've run it many, many times since then.
yeah.
And you know, you've been in the city a long, long time, basically your entire adult life,
Pretty much.
and you're active in the Central Business District. You've got a business down there, Homeward Bound Treasures. So you've got your finger on the pulse on what's going on in the Central Business District, and you live in and I would say a modest neighborhood off of Shore, and you've been there a long time. So I mean, you've got your finger on the pulse on what's going on in our city, and you get out and about.
Well, you know, it is true. I've been here 55 years in New London, in the same house for 40, and I do own a downtown business. So, and what's interesting is I hardly ever see any of the councilors or anybody from the city downtown. You know, I'm there at least 5 days a week. And when I'm not, I still go by the store and things like that. I just don't see anybody. I've been to a number of events lately. The Old Mill had an event a couple weeks ago, and there wasn't a single councilor there. So,
Did you go to the food stroll a couple of weeks ago?
yeah, the food stroll, and then the what was that? I can't remember. Oh, it was there was a fundraiser at Ocean Beach to raise money to move the clock tower, the old clock tower, and there wasn't anybody there. I think Mr. Sadie came, but besides that, there wasn't. So I don't really know how connected in with the city many of the councilors are.
Yeah. Well, is it this weekend or the weekend after that there's going to be an event at the beach for the Cove?
Yeah, November 8th,
That's not this weekend, it's next week.
Yeah, Alewife Cove Conservancy is doing a fundraiser at Ocean Beach. I think it starts at 7. They're having a great band called Fusion there, and there'll be raffles and all that. I think it's $35 a ticket, and you know, all the money raised will go to the work at rehabbing Alewife Cove. And one of the things I have been doing for many years now is I serve on the Water Pollution Control Authority as the vice chairman. And when we signed our contract with Veolia years ago, there was a line in the contract where they gave us $50,000 to disperse into the community as we saw fit with certain guidelines. And
Water related, right?
yeah, it's water related under education or any. So I have been able to funnel through that a good chunk of money to the Alewife Cove Conservancy, because I think it's a really good bipartisan something to do for the Cove and for the city of New London, because
And the town of Waterford.
and the town of Waterford, because people live on both sides, so. I enjoy that quite a bit. I've been fortunate when I did serve. I was the chairman of the School Building and Maintenance Committee. We were building Winthrop School at the time, and we brought that in on time and under budget, and I was really proud of that. So I got to do that kind of work, and I enjoy. And now I still serving on that, also serve on the Veterans Advisory Committee. I was the former chairman of the Board of Assessment Appeals. So as Marty said, I do have my finger on things, and I pay close attention. And one of the reasons that I'm running again after a hiatus is because what I see going on with the strong mayor I don't like, all right? Now, what's been going on, we've had since, when's the last time you served, Marty?
Oh boy, I think 17 to 19, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
so we've had, with the exception of Marty, I think we've had, well, there's 16 elected officials in the city. And for a number of years, they've been all Democrats. And, you know, we're one of the two cities in the state that does not have a requirement to have minority representation, which I think is a shame. But even more than that, there's a certain skill set needed, because what happens is the mayor comes, now when Marty and I served, I'm sorry I'm digressing here, but when we served, the council made policy and the city manager carried it out. Now it's pretty much gotten down to where the council gets to vote on what the mayor wants. Whatever project he wants, they get to vote for the money. But in my opinion, they don't have the skill set required to really vet the projects that the mayor is looking to do. And so what it ends up to be is largely a rubber stamp. And that is what's been bothering me quite a bit.
It's been expensive too.
Well, yeah, and you know, so we're looking at well, the city has a charter, all right. It's written down, it's formal.
In essence, that's our local constitution.
Exactly, that's our local constitution, and the city administration has decided to just ignore the parts of it they don't like. They just ignore it. One of the things the charter says is that any department director in the city needs to live in the city. There's only a few that do, and they just don't do anything or just look the other way, and that bothers me. So one of the things I would like to do is, when I get elected, is to reopen the charter and make necessary changes to make it better and better serve the city. Another thing that was, this is one of my biggest bugaboos, is our charter requires any action of the council to have 3 readings. So I'll explain that to you. So the first night, it comes up in the agenda on the council package and it passes, all right? Then 2 weeks later, it comes up a second time and it passes, and then 2 weeks after that, again. So that gives the people a month to learn about what the council did, check into it, and then respond to it.
Also gives the council themselves an opportunity to sink their teeth into it.
Exactly, because people don't realize this, but the council only gets the package, the agenda package, a couple days before the meeting. And it's really hard, especially if you're working a full-time job, it's really hard to get a hold of the department heads or anyone else you need to get a hold of to find more about what this project is, what it's about, who's paying for it, those types of things. So they don't get much time to go through that. So as Marty said, it gives them a chance to figure it out. There used to be a guy, who was the guy who did the 11th hour? Who was that? A news guy, I'm trying to remember his name, but now you know the rest of the story. Paul Harvey. So I can remember there were times on the council when I was all ready to vote on something, and then all of a sudden a different piece of information crossed my desk, and I changed my vote because now I knew the rest of the story. We don't get that option in the city. The biggest case in point I could think of over the last few years was the rec center. I'm not against the rec center, but the mayor had appointed a commission, 15 people in the city, to research and look into the best placement for that rec center. He went against them. They didn't want it where it is at all. So what we have now is we have a rec center that was built on land taken by eminent domain that the Supreme Court said you could take for economic development. Well, I don't see where a nonprofit is economic development. Also, the final price tag on that, according to some sources, can range between $60 and $82 million. We're told
that was originally, the facility was originally budgeted at
40.
30.
Yeah, 30 million.
And
So,
they ratcheted it up to 40. Beyond that now,
oh yeah, quite a bit. I mean, we gave them, I don't know, $8 million for ledge being found. The extra work it had to do to excavate the ledge. But there was big rocks sticking up all out of the ground everywhere. I mean, who didn't know there was ledge there? But anyhow, so that's the kind of stuff. Now, this rec center that we have is the operating cost on that is about 2.1 to 2.5 million a year. With, if you're conservative, you would need 5,000 paying members to go to this.
Well, at least take membership.
Yeah, I mean, to be members and then pay to at least keep it afloat. Or my personal opinion is we're going to be paying for this forever. We're never going to make our number that we need to get to, you know, I mean, people complain and cry about Ocean Beach. That's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what we're going to be losing down there.
But the model is the same. I mean, as far as how they're going to operate this thing, you've got a private operator.
Yeah.
And they're going to get a baseline payment, whether they have enough members or not.
Exactly. And in addition to that, all at that same time, we're still paying off the note on it. So, you know,
and the mayor was, you know, all full of fire and brimstone with Dave Shagru and Sodexo down at the beach, and I think it was misplaced. They've scapegoated Dave. Dave's done a hell of a job.
Yeah,
And does a hell of a job.
He does, you know, and the thing is, it's like, well, take for instance this past summer. The first 5 or 6 weekends of the summer were shot because of weather. You only get 10 or 12 weekends. So it's going to be really hard to make it up with banquets and weddings and things like that down there. And yeah, Dave's kind of taking it on the chin. And, you know, it's tough because since, you know, we've had Ocean Beach since, I guess, after the 38 hurricane. And now what's happened is there's so many more recreational opportunities out there for people. And, you know,
most communities have their own community centers, or their high schools, or their schools are accessible to the public. There's numerous gymnasiums for profit that are open. In fact, there's one just down the 100 yards from where we're sitting right now.
Well, another thing that, you know, I find annoying about the rec center, well, besides its location, it should have been somewhere else, like up where the Edgerton School was. Then the kids could have walked from the high school and the middle school and got there, or people from out of town who wanted to join could just jump right off the highway and come in and go. Is the charge. Now, I'm over 65. I get Silver Sneakers and Medicare. I can go to Planet Fitness. I can go to Renegade, most other gyms. It doesn't cost me a penny. And all that is a deal with the insurance companies that handle Medicare. Why they can't do that, I don't know. I mean, I think that would greatly increase their memberships. But I asked them and they said, well, we're looking into it. Well,
but are you going to pay a full membership so you can swim?
Well, I'm not a swimmer.
That's what
I mean,
ask. I mean,
yeah,
so,
you know, I mean, everything else that they have, I can go to these other gyms and get for nothing. Or I can pay, I think it's $35 for a senior, $35 a month, and more for others. I think up to $50 a month, and then there's family plans, but it's still very expensive to go there. So, wrong place. I don't like the fact that there's outside people running it. And, you know, I just think we as a city are going to suffer financially from it. Now, going back to what I was saying before about the 3 readings, all right? In the charter, it also says, and I was saying that any action of the charter has to be read 3 times. But in the next sentence, it says, unless 5 or more counselors vote to waive those other readings. And that's what I'm talking about, the rubber stamp. Now, that was, at the time, a $30 or $40 million project, as Marty said. They rubber stamped it. Now, there wasn't a shovel in the ground for almost 3 years after they made that ruling. So what was the big darn hurry to get it through in 1 reading? And I see this with other things that go on. They want to get them passed. You know, it's kind of like hiding them from the people, because by the time the people find out about it, it's gone. And I don't like that. Now, I know when Marty and I served on that council from 09 to 11, the only time we ever used that was that if it was time expedient. So, for instance, the middle school's boiler's down and kids are freezing, all right? Well, we would waive the readings and let them go out and spend the money to get them fixed. Or if it was something like somebody donated $50 to the beautification committee, a New London Beautification Committee, then, you know, we wouldn't clog up the docket with those type of things. But anything else, anything important, we never passed on 1 reading. We always used the 3 readings. Am I correct, Marty?
I would say for the most part you are, yeah.
Yeah. So that has been one of my bugaboos, is that the projects that the mayor is bringing forward aren't being vetted. It's obvious that he does not like being questioned. He does not like it at all, and anyone who does is in his doghouse.
I mean, a council, one of the last councils that I served on, we had 2 issues, and I was the only Republican on that council. Since we've changed the government, by the way, I mean, Adam Spracacci served a term, and I've served 2 terms. And that's the only Republican representation we've had in the last dozen years.
Yeah.
That's not healthy for diversity of thought and ideas. No. But that's not where I wanted to go with this, is that we had 2 issues where the 3 readings became critical. One is where the mayor brought in a proposal coming from the state to have these plastic bags for garbage. And,
I remember that.
And there was a lot of pushback on that. Now, if the mayor had his way, and he had the votes that first night, waive the readings, done. However, I pushed hard, and Mike Tranquita was in on that, and John Sadie. And we were able to slow it down, and it gave the public a chance to weigh in as well, and the public didn't want it. Now, if the mayor had his way, the public wouldn't have had a chance to even comment on it. It would have been done. And we were able to slow it down enough that it got defeated. And you notice it hasn't come back.
That's right.
That was one. And the other was when the mayor was trying to consolidate city services into a building. And he was going to initially go into the former savings bank building downtown. There was no request for proposal, just hand it to him. Well, that's not right. We've got other business people, other space available. Why aren't we soliciting proposals and trying to get the best deal and find out what's available? So just on the face of that, I was able to get that one slowed down and do that. They go through the proposals, and they were looking at a facility down in Shaw's Cove. And again, the public weighed in on that, and they got all full of fire and brimstone because, A, if you pull everything out of City Hall, why go downtown? There's nothing down there. That's an important consideration to even go downtown. Go to City Hall. And City Hall is also a historic building. Just pumped a fair amount of dough in there to get the place cleaned up and brought back to its historic shape. And but slowing it down, we were able to get the public energized. And this is coming from a minority position.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone says, well, what can you do singularly? Well, I did a lot. These things emanated from here, and I was able to secure support from the Democrats because they saw what the public wanted. Get some bipartisan things going here. And being, and that's not being negative, that's being positive.
Yeah.
So I think that folks have got to understand that. So when they go in to vote next week, whether it's for you or for Beloved or for Aaron Ide, Gina Phillips, and we've got a fifth one. Who's that?
Kat Goulard.
Kat's for the
And
school
Hans
board.
Hartman.
Oh, Hans Hartman.
No, Kat's running on city side. The only two running on Board of Ed are Sarah Turner and John Martin.
Okay, so we've got two for the, and those are two fine candidates for the school board, I might add.
I have to add to that, Marty, because first off, John Martin spent 21 years teaching in the school system, so who better to know where they hide the, one of the biggest complaints I hear from people that really pay attention is that the school board plays a kind of a shell game with the money, and they move things around. Nobody really knows. I can remember years ago when I was with the Lower Our Taxes group, we finally got a copy of the budget and we had a CPA look at it and he couldn't make heads or tails of it. So that really bothers me. The other thing is that woman, Sarah Turner, is absolutely, the conversations I've had with her, she came and spoke to our Kiwanis Club, knocked my socks off. The stuff she knows. She goes to every board meeting, she pays attention, she's got 2 kids in the school system, and she is on top of things, and she gets derided by Elaine Maynard Adams, who is the current chair of the Board of Ed, and others on there, because she asks questions, and when she doesn't get answers, she FOIs and things like that, and they do not behave in a professional manner, the current Board of Ed. So I would really like to see some people get on there who really know what the heck they're talking about, because our school is any different than most of the schools in the country right now, where our progress is horrible. The percentage of kids reading and doing math at grade level is abysmal, and it should not be that way. Now, if we have to figure out a way to get these kids' attention, then maybe the people going to school to become educators need to be educated differently, because we're not making it the way it is right now, and it is horrible, because these are the leaders of tomorrow.
Well, that's true, but right now we kind of had it jammed down our throats to go to the magnet school district. This goes back again. I think you were on that council.
I fought against it.
As did I. We had a state takeover for a period of time, and the state special master, he strongly encouraged and recommended that we go to this magnet school district because the city was unable to properly fund its educational system from within. And that we would get all sorts of cash by buying into this program and having students come in from out of district. Of course, there were benchmarks we had to meet, which we have not been meeting.
We've never meeting.
So, I mean, we are falling further and further behind on that. And we had been, at the time when this decision was made, trolling at the bottom of the state of Connecticut in terms of academic performance. That has not improved.
Well,
So I mean, why would somebody who's not in district be anxious to send their child into this district if it's not performing well?
Well, that was one of my biggest bugaboos. They were going to give us 95% reimbursement to build the schools instead of 80, which is what they usually give. But there was a caveat, like you said. We had to have a certain percentage of the kids from out of district. So I said to myself, why would you want to, you live in East Lyme, you're late 20s, early 30s, you got a couple of school-age kids. Why do you want to send them to a failing district when East Lyme has one of the best schools in the state? I said, we're not going to get these kids, and we never have. You know, it's this is what I'm talking about the people that won't push back and they won't ask questions and they don't, you know, they do knee-jerk reactions. It bothers the heck out of me. You know, I just...
Well, you know, for my money, the Smagit district was a smokescreen in that, if you recall the Chef versus O'Neill case, it goes back many, many years now, that where Chef sued the state of Connecticut that they weren't getting a proper education in Hartford. Chef won, but the state really has never done anything to properly address it. This magnet school program is kind of doing it because you're mixing racial kids from suburban areas into urban districts, and but you're not seeing the improvement in academics.
No, and you know, it seems to be the current knowledge is to just throw more money at it. You know, it doesn't work. I mean, New London, in my opinion, on the Board of Ed side, they have so many empty suits, so many people making $150,000 to $190,000 a year doing nothing to educate kids, nothing to help out. And, you know, I have so many people on the inside tell me this all the time, unsolicited. Just say this is what we're doing. So, you know,
with that, because I mean, although the council is not directly involved with education,
right? They still vote on the overall budget.
They vote on the budget as a lump sum, but in terms of line items and where it's spent, it's out of their hands. But the thing is that without a quality educational system, and here we've got all these new apartments going up, how are you going to get young families coming into New London if the school system is not performing?
Yeah. Well, exactly. Or they try to go to somewhere, you know, they'll go to a private school. They'll go to St. Joe's or, you know.
That's not the New London public schools.
No, that's what I'm saying. Or one of the magnet schools or Isaac.
Yep.
You know, so one of the things I don't want to miss, we only have 10 minutes left. So one of the things I don't want to miss touching on is what is the job of a city councilor today? We just had a debate put on by Hearing Youth Voices and the League of Women Voters. Well, questions submitted by these people. None of the questions they submitted had anything remotely to do with running a city. These were questions you would have asked federal, like congressmen, senators, state senators, state reps, not city councilors. The city councilor job is to vet what the mayor brings forward. Very different than when Marty and I served together years ago. Very different. So he brings a project forward to us. You need a certain group with a skill set that can look at that, pick it apart, and comment on it. We don't have that. Some of the skill sets we need people with legal experience. We need people with financial experience. We need people with business experience. We need people with engineering experience, which is why I'm pushing for Aaron Ide very hard because he is a brilliant engineer and great with numbers. Gina Phillips, who is a businesswoman, 30 years running a male-dominated industry. She's a paving contractor, Northeast Paving. Myself, I have military, engineering, and business experience over many years, starting many businesses. To me, these are the types of experiences and skills that a city councilor needs to really do his or her job. You know, the rest is, I sit there, I've been to tons of meetings, I've watched tons of them on the TV. you know, these people, I'm not saying they're bad people, they aren't, they're good people, but in my opinion, they don't know what they don't know. It would be like me taking over NASA tomorrow and telling them how to build rocket ships. You know, I don't know how to build a rocket ship, but now all of a sudden, I'm telling NASA how to build rocket ships. And that's exactly what I see, and that's one of the reasons I decided to kind of come out of retirement, so to speak, and try to give this a shot to see if I can help our city. So.
Well, I'm glad that you are. I'd like to give a little plug there too for Hans Hartman, who's kind of comes out of the film and I would say more the artsy stuff. And Beloved Carter is just kind of like Ms. Mom there. I think that she brings just a different family touch with a twist of Christianity in there. I think that that's good. The diversity of thought and ideas is grossly missing in our current government. And that is something that is important.
Without a doubt, we have a person on the council right now who is an avowed communist. We have other people who are akin to the woke generation. Well, that's all well and good. They can be what they want, but that's not what help runs the city. You know, one of the things I see that we need really, this has been another thing I've really been pushing, perception. All right, back in the 80s, I worked for an engineering company in Groton. Trade Corps applied scientists. And most of the engineers were men, but their wives, I would see them at parties and whatnot, and they'd say, "Where do you live?" I'd say, "New London." The perception was that New London was not safe, that it's scary. They wouldn't come over there. And this is something the city needs to combat. But when I served, we were only laying out like $35,000 for PR and advertising for a $104 million business. That's not a good number because I look at our city as a business. And you need people like that to look at it that way. But people perceive, I can remember years ago I was seeing a young doctor that lived in, well, she wasn't that young, but she was my age, that lived in Essex. And I said, "I want to take you to a show at the Guard." "Oh my God, New London, I can't go to New London." I brought her and she could not believe it. Her perception changed at that point and started coming to things in New London. We need to do things like that. We do not advertise our downtown events. My store, I've been 18 years running Homeward Bound Treasures, all right? I'm a volunteer, all right? Most of the people there are volunteers. We give all our money to the homeless shelter. There could be a parade going on 1 block from my store. I don't even know what it's about. You know, it's mind-boggling. And that goes on time and time again. So, you know, there's...
Part of the perception, too, is the lack of a police presence. I think that is not a priority, especially to the mayor.
Well, you know, Marty, I don't know if that's the case. I do know that we had 95 police when we served together, and we have 63 now.
Yep.
And I do know they try to... See, New London is not the plum. If you're going to go into policing, New London's not the plum. East Lyme, Waterford, a lot safer, a lot better in people's minds. And it's really hard, I mean, to get anyone to go into law enforcement today.
But we did. We had them a dozen years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And Finenzio skewered the department. I mean, he was ahead of his time in terms of being anti-cop.
Oh, yeah. Well, not only the police department, but the Public Works Department. The Public Works Department is half the size of what it was when we were on. Half the size, exactly. The guys, I know them because when I served, I was liaison to Public Works. So I got to know a number of the guys, and I still see them around, and we talk. One of them came to me the other day, he said, "John, I don't know what we're going to do." He says, "We don't have enough people to drive the snow trucks this winter. We don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to, you know, farm it all out. We just don't have any people. You know, they have like one painter in the city and one electrician. And it's just they have to just about farm out every single thing they got to do because they just don't have any people. And I don't know if that was done to keep our taxes down or what, but I go around the city and I call in complaints because I'm really upset when I see like garbage and mattresses and bureaus on the sidewalk day after day after day.
And that's part of the perception.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's the old broken window thing, you know, from Giuliani did back in New York in the day. You know, there's so many things we could do to get better. There were so many ordinances that we don't enforce, and one is snow removal. It's right on the books. It's got to be removed within X hours after a storm. Nobody ever gets a ticket for it. Now, they did bring in a group recently that's going after a lot of these motor vehicles, unregistered motor vehicles, people register out of state that live here, and that could net us some money. And I think that's a good program. Did they have to go out to use an outside source? No. We had people in town that wanted to do it. But
another problem, it's also beyond perception, is the dirt bikes and scooters and all that is, I'm just, disgusts me when people throw up their hands and say there's nothing we can do. It's a state problem. Well, you know, if you think it's a state problem, then create a resolution and send it to the state and tell them, fix it.
You know, Marty.
What about our rights?
It is horrible. You know, they get around you in a cluster, and they're crazy. They do this stuff in the middle of the intersections, and you know, they bang on your windows. You know, I thought of this thing. I said, why don't we just get some drones? All right, put a drone up, follow the worst one, follow them home, show up with a cruiser, take the bike, lock the kid up. Do that a couple times, and you tell me if that's not going to have a huge deterrent on that activity.
I like that idea.
Yeah, and it's not expensive. You know, a couple of drones. Drones are maybe $100 a piece, and that could take them off the street.
But the prevailing attitude is throw their hands up. Nothing we can do.
Well, you're not allowed to chase them. You're not allowed to chase them according to the state. They put that on the police. Now, I think the police have a tough job today because they're hamstrung. Back in the day, Marty, if you and I mouthed off to a cop,
they'd cuff you and bring you in.
That's right. We'd get you know, hauled in. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, John, you know, it's amazing to say, but we have run the gamut here on the clock.
You know, I'm looking at the clock, I'm going, really? I think we just started. I had a whole page of things to talk about we never got even close to.
Well,
but that's the way it goes.
We'll bring you back after the election and
Yeah.
start gearing up for the next one. Well, I want to thank you folks for watching City Focus, and I want to thank John for coming in.
Marty, thanks for having me, buddy.
And next week, I've got Tony D, who's a regular guest on Lee Elsey on next week. Always have an engaging conversation with Tony D'Angelo. So with that, we'll say thanks for watching and good night. We'll see you next week. There's John.